What's up, everybody, and welcome back. We are back, Duenkel Productions. We are here with an episode of On the Ice with the man that knows more about the ice than anybody else I know. The man, the myth, the legend, Dylan Griffin. Dylan, how are you today, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Appreciate it. So before we get into this first topic here, just want to say a huge shout out to Wisconsin Sports Garage, proud sponsor of the channel, and also G5 Shirts and Designs. Use code WISCO, dollar off your purchase and free shipping. But Dylan Griffin, my friend, Dylan had made a big announcement recently. If you guys follow us on Instagram and Twitter, you would have seen that we tweeted about it on our brand accounts because Dylan Griffin, fan and friend of the show, we support him, he supports us. How we doing? Keep it moving. But Dylan Griffin, Elite Prospects Rinkside, you are now a part of that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and tell us what you're going to be doing over there, man?
Yeah, so I've been working with the site Dauber Prospects for the past year, uh, and so I just kind of kept working, doing covering Russian hockey, which is still very weird to explain to people, but uh, I sent over an offer. I joined the team, and I'll be covering Russian prospects for them. They're one of the biggest sites out there, so it's pretty still crazy to me that that I'm working for them. But yeah, it's a great place to learn more. A bunch of people smarter than me who are working there, but I'll get up to their level and hopefully maybe NHL team at some point would be kind of cool.
Well, I don't think, hopefully is the right word. I think when is the correct word there, Dylan Griffin. Love what you've been doing, man. For those that don't know, me and Dylan have been friends for quite a few years now, back since high school. And really, the first time I met Dylan, I probably knew probably like a quarter of what I know now about NHL hockey. Um, he is the sole reason I know as much as I do about it. Three episodes on our podcast. Huge shout out to Dylan for always coming on. Dylan, I'm so happy for you, man, personally. To be honest, when you told me that there was a possibility of this opportunity, um, I was ecstatic. I remember we were talking on the phone. I was so hyped for you, man. And when it became official, I was so hyped for you and so happy for you because I know this is what you like to do. And, I have a feeling you're going to make to the top one day. I've always said that Dylan Griffin is the GOAT of hockey outside of Doc Emmerich. I don't think anybody can top Doc Emmerich. But I think if there's a guy in second place, it has to be without question Dylan Griffin. So Dylan, just so proud of you, man. Love that you joined Elite Prospects Rinkside. Love that. Very excited for you, and I hope the opportunity turns out great for you, man.
Appreciate it. You're my biggest fan through it all, biggest hype man.
Yes,
So just tell you
sir.
whatever. This guy will be so excited at all times. So
Dude, it's all love, man, and you know that. But Dylan, let's talk about some hockey now, man. Let's
yeah,
talk
let's do
about
it.
some hockey. So, first thing I wanted to ask you about is kind of the surprise teams this year in the NHL. I really didn't think any of us expected the Carolina Hurricanes to be number one in the Central Division, and I didn't think that we would expect the Minnesota Wild to be in the playoffs at this point in the season. So let's talk a little bit about those two teams. What have you seen from them lately? And do you think that Minnesota could be a team that maybe can make a deep run into the playoffs?
Yeah, Minnesota's always been a team that has a lot of good players, but just doesn't put it all together to make like a real run in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
This year, adding Kaprizov, who's been just scoring goals left, right, and center as a rookie. Uh, Joel Eriksson stepping up to be a first line center. Their defense still being as good as it should be. Uh, Goaltending is average at best, really. But I mean, they just put it all together, added some pieces throughout. Didn't really do much at the deadline, I don't believe. but they kind of have the team already put together that they want, and it's working for them. They're climbing up. Their consistency isn't always there, but there's definitely potential for them to be in the playoffs and maybe win a round or two. But Stanley Cup is pushing it for me. So
So what about the Carolina Hurricanes? What are you seeing from them, and do you think that they're a team that can make a run at the Stanley Cup?
they're also a team that struggles with consistency. They just lost back-to-back games against the Red Wings, which is, even the Blackhawks didn't do that. Uh, yeah, they're just a weird team. They definitely should have looked to do more at the deadline. All they did was trade Hayden Fleury for Hakanpää, who's just a bottom pairing defenseman really. Um, Goaltending has been fine with Nedeljkovic, but uh, injuries have been not good for them. I think they were just without Teravainen and uh, one other forward. So you kind of want them to do more at the deadline to add to the team, but they kind of just made that one trade and said that was enough for them. Uh, Slavin and Hamilton haven't been what they usually are, uh, and that's clear even when you're just watching them. The stats back that up too. So if they like, I don't think that them being the top of this division means that they're like a great team. I just think that they're picking on the teams that suck in the Central, and Tampa without Kucherov. Nashville is terrible for the first half of the season. I think they're just kind of banking on that, and uh, I think they'll not. I think they won't be this dominant when it comes to the playoffs.
So Dylan, so I agree with a lot of what you said there. I think Minnesota, good team, good story this year. I don't see them competing whatsoever with the Vegas Golden Knights and even the Colorado Avalanche. They are playing unbelievable hockey right now. Watch them play last night against St. Louis, and I was very impressed with the way they played. Carolina, like we've mentioned, I think they could be a good story this year, but again, I would take the Tampa Bay Lightning out of that division every day out of the week. Now, I wanted to ask you, Dylan. You did bring up the trade deadline. Saw a lot of trades happen the past couple of days. Saw that the Washington Capitals picked up a name. Saw them talking about that last night on NHL Live. Said that was a good move. I don't really know the player that much, but good move for Washington. Boston also made a huge move. That'll be interesting to see what happens there. And then Toronto Maple Leafs as well were very active. So why don't you take us into a deeper dive with those trade deadlines? Were they good trades or were they bad?
So first of all, with the Washington Detroit trade, it was Jakob Vrana first, second, and Richard Panik for Anthony Mantha. Uh, Mantha is slightly better than Vrana at best. Panik is just a cap dump, so they definitely it was Panik in a second as a cap dump. So Detroit would take him, and then it was Vrana in a first for Mantha, which for basically like for like players is a really weird move for the Capitals. But both players were in the doghouse at their teams. Vrana wasn't going to come back next season. Uh, Mantha, for whatever reason, everyone hated him in Detroit, even though he was like their best player for the past 3 years. So either way, it's an overpay by the Capitals, giving up a first to get a player who's just an upgrade on the player that they're giving away, like a slight upgrade. It really just doesn't make sense for them. And then for talking Taylor Hall trade, uh, he's been such a odd player this year. He has 2 goals, but he's still playing the same game that he's been playing since he was drafted, basically. He just is getting so unlucky. So his value's diminished throughout the year. They trade him to Boston for a second and Anders Bjork, which is they got or according to the media, they got forced to make the trade with Boston because Taylor Hall wasn't going to waive his no movement clause to anyone else. So like it just kind of is what it is for that one. If that's the case, you can't really trade him anywhere else. If you don't trade him, you're going to lose him for nothing in the offseason. So getting a second in Bjork isn't great, but it's better than losing him for nothing. It's kind of like the Artemi Panarin for Brandon Saad trade all those years ago, where it's like, oh, we lose this great player and we only get Brandon Saad back, but at least we got Saad back instead of losing Panarin for nothing. So a lot of people say it's like a huge loss for Buffalo, but I mean, they did what they could and they got something back for him. And then as for Toronto, the Nick Foligno trade was not good to say the least. He's like he's a third line winger and they gave up a first for him. That's not really a good move, especially comparing it to what other players were moved. Toronto fans will say it's a good one because he's a leader. He has veteran presence, but they already did that with like Joe Thornton, Wayne Simmons, all these players. They just keep adding more veterans. So it's not like a terrible trade, I guess, because they perceive their first is going to be one of the last picks in the first round, but still an overpay for an aging player who's not getting any better.
Now, Dylan, Nick Foligno, he used to play for the Columbus Blue Jackets, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure I had the information correct. So, Dylan, let me ask you this then. Who do you think had the best trade out of those three? Boston, Toronto, or Washington? Who do you think won or had the best trade out of those three players that's going to make the most impact for their team?
Well, it's got to be Boston, giving up only a second in Andersburg for Taylor Hall. I mean, Washington gets Anthony Mantha, but for what the cost was, you can't really see that as a win. Or even though Mantha was good in his debut, I think he got a goal and an assist. It's just still an overpay for what it was. He'll be a good player for them. Verano will be a good player in Detroit. Detroit just comes away with more picks. And then for Toronto, I don't think Foligno is going to be a difference maker or anything. He's just going to help stabilize their bottom six and just kind of do what he does, play defense, not play offense, and be that veteran presence that apparently they need.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I was watching some NHL shows last night, they were talking a lot about these three trades, and I thought Boston definitely won with Taylor Hall. Like you were saying, only having to give up a second, I feel like is definitely a good move for Boston. Also, I think Boston, like they're a weird team to figure out. I believe they're fourth in the standings right now, but they're a team that could easily make the Stanley Cup still. Now, do you think that the Toronto Maple Leafs have what it takes to make it to the Stanley Cup this year, or do you think that they will yet again fall off like they do pretty much every year?
I hope there's no Leafs fans listening, but I don't think they're going to be winning it this year. There's a lot of inconsistency with them. Goaltending is not good besides Hutchinson, who went on like an 11-game winning streak. But the defense is whatever. They have a lot of depth guys, but they don't have a lot of their star players aren't always firing. They have Matthews, who's obviously insanely good. Marner is always good. John Tavares has been struggling to score all year, kind of like Taylor Hall. He's been one of the worst finishers in the league. Nylander's been on and off all year. I don't see them being able to get past like the likes like Colorado or Vegas if they meet them in the finals. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that Toronto, like, I just don't see them being able to make it out of their even division. I think they might struggle to get out of their division. Like you said, DGriff, it's a lot of inconsistent players that sometimes are firing, sometimes they're not. If they're firing, the Maple Leafs are one of the toughest teams to beat. But if they're not, it's hard to put confidence in a team that might be firing or might not. But let's talk about the two teams that you just brought up there. The two teams that I believe are neck and neck along with the Tampa Bay Lightning to probably make or win the Stanley Cup in the Colorado Avalanche and Vegas Golden Knights. Last night, watched both of those teams play. All I got to say about Colorado is they're firing on all cylinders. They play a very fast game. It was really interesting to watch the chess match, though, Dylan. I don't know if you caught that, but the Avalanche coach was trying to get McKinnon and his group mates on the fourth line of the St. Louis Blues, and the Blues head coach was trying to keep Ryan O'Reilly on the same line with McKinnon because they're obviously going to be able to defend them better. So it was really interesting to watch that chess match last night. What are your thoughts on the Colorado Avalanche and Vegas Golden Knights at this point in the season?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Colorado this year. They're just a really, really good team. Cale Makar has been my favorite player to watch in the NHL. He's an incredible skater. He's maybe the best power play quarterback I've seen all year. Colorado's power play was kind of iffy to start the year, and then they've been on fire ever since then. Obviously, McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, Saad, all of them. All their depth is solid. They're making smart acquisitions, bring on Devon Toews at the start of the year. They just brought on Patrick Nemeth from Detroit. He's another guy that they can just add to their bottom pairing defense, and he'll be solid defensively. And then it's just goaltending is their issue. I believe Francouz has been injured most of the year. Grubauer has been on and off being injured as well, I believe. So they traded for, was it Dubnyk that they traded for? I think someone traded for Dubnyk. I think it was them.
Devin Dubnyk, yeah, they traded for him.
Yeah.
I believe he, in fact, started last night as well.
Yes. Now it's all clicking. He's bad. He's been bad for the past like 5 years at this point. But he's somebody that they can put in between the pipes and say, hey, please just try your best. We have a good team in front of you. Just stop a couple and we'll win most of these games. But yeah, the goaltending has been their biggest issue. They also got that Jonas Johansson from Buffalo, and everyone in Buffalo was like, this guy's terrible. People were like, oh no, we should just give him a shot. He'll be fine. And then the first game, he was let in like 3 shots on the first 4, or three goals on the first 4 shots or something. So he was pretty terrible. So yeah, just goaltending's their biggest concern. Everything else is fantastic, best in the league everywhere else. And then Vegas, I have seen less of, but obviously they still have Mark Stone. Everyone in their top 6 is really good this year. Max Pacioretty's scoring at a really good rate. Goalies were always going to be strong. Having Fleury and Lehner, you can't really beat that. Fleury's been one of the best goalies in the year, or best goalies in the league all year. Lehner, just having him as the 1B is obviously always great. Defense is good. I'd say Colorado's is better, but they still have a lot of good pieces in there. And then forwards, they somehow made Chandler Stevenson a good player. Just putting him with Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty just made him all of a sudden be one of the best centers in the league somehow, which is not true. He's just been good. Yeah, so between those two teams, I take Colorado. Goaltending is it's gonna make or break them. But overall, I think the team is easily the best in the league. Just the skaters, at least. If Grubauer can be healthy, if Francouz, I don't know what his timetable is. I don't know if he's returned already. But if they have those two for the playoffs, then they're going to be unstoppable, really.
DGriff, they're going to be unstoppable?
Unstoppable.
Okay.
They had Cale Makar, Devon Toews,
okay.
Sam Girard.
Okay.
This whole defensive core. Those are 3 players who have been like Norris caliber almost. At least Toews and Makar have. I don't know how you stop that.
I mean, Dylan, like I've told you, Colorado insane team, great team. Vegas, I mean, I think they're insane as well. You mentioned Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty. Um, I think that series would be so good in the playoffs. That would be one of the best playoff series maybe in years. I mean, you combine all that talent, you combine goaltending as well. Um, I will say though, I think that the Golden Knights right now, they're playing some really good hockey. So is Colorado. It'll be interesting to see how those two teams finish off the year. And like you mentioned, Flower is unbelievable. Marc Andre Fleury and Robin Leonard as your 1B, not a bad option either. You can't say enough about the talent in the NHL. I think that those two teams are probably the two best right now. I would say personally, I don't think that there's really any team that can put a stop to those two. I think one of those teams will end up winning the cup this year. I say I'd probably give a slight edge to Colorado right now because I think Colorado is playing a little bit better than Vegas is, but at the same time, it's hard to go against Mark Stone and the boys, and you know Stone's having a good season as well. I know that's your guy, DGriff. You like the two-way forwards, which is awesome. Um, and yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how things fare down the stretch here. So, DGriff, do you know kind of what's the timetable for the playoffs? When are we going to start seeing some playoff hockey?
Uh, what, like 20 games left, maybe something like
Okay.
that.
So
For
we're
each
we're
team.
coming down the stretch. We're
Yeah,
coming down the stretch.
trade deadlines passed, so just kind of have to figure out what's happening in Vancouver with them. Did you hear about all that?
Yes, I did. That is a crazy
Yeah,
situation.
players don't want to play, but the Players Association, who's supposed to be defending them, is like, hey, no, you guys better play. It's like, no, don't. But it's just a stupid situation that shouldn't be happening, really.
So, DGriff, why don't you take us in a little bit deeper on that subject?
All
What's
right,
what's
so
going on there?
the Canucks basically got the biggest COVID hit of any team so far, or
Hmm.
hopefully ever. Um, they went like 13 players down with COVID, and then it went up to 18 or 20, I think. Even staff was getting it also, obviously. So they've been out since early March with it, and now they're supposed to be playing tomorrow. Uh, I think I saw something saying that they were looking to postpone it just because the players obviously can't be skating while they have COVID. The players who are quarantining obviously can't go out and skate. Uh, so just none of them are ready. JT Miller came out and was very open about how stupid the whole situation was and that the players are not ready to play. But the NHL is kind of forcing their hand. Um, so just a really not good thing going on that just is completely avoidable. But the NHL just doesn't care about the players, really.
Yeah, that's really disappointing. I mean, you got to put the players first. You know, I obviously knew about the Vancouver situation. Didn't know as much as you said. So thank you for enlightening me on that subject, Dylan. But yeah, I mean, especially the NHLPA, like they're gonna have the players back in this situation. That's what the NFLPA is doing right now. They're having a big argument about OTAs and mini camps, and the NFLPA is having the players backs. The NHL PA needs to do the same thing. They got to have the players backs. It's especially not fair if the players aren't ready, like JT Miller's saying, then you can't have them play. You can't force them out there. It's not a good idea. And one, it's not a good look for the NHL. Forcing players to play when everything's going on and what they're going through. I mean, you can only imagine what Vancouver's team and organization's going through right now. They've had to deal with a month of craziness and stress and just everybody. And I think that what, um, NHL, you got to stand up and you got to have the players backs in this and the PA as well. I think that it's a really ridiculous situation, and the NHL should be ashamed of themselves for how they're handling it right now. Honestly, I mean, you gotta respect the players. You gotta understand, those are the people that bring in the revenue for you. You know what I mean? When those guys play, those guys aren't playing because they're dealing with an issue and it's a serious issue. It's something that the whole world is dealing with. It the whole country, the whole universe is dealing with this problem right now. So it's definitely, as I like to say, Dylan, it's bigger than ball or bigger than skating or bigger than hockey. Take care of the
Yeah.
players. I think I completely agree with you. It's a ridiculous situation. Um, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. It really will be. So DGriff, do you think that they will end up playing, or do you think that the game will end up getting postponed?
I don't think they'll play it. The players don't want to play. The players aren't ready to play. It shouldn't happen, is all I'll say, because it's out of the players' controls. I mean, they could boycott the game, but obviously that's going to come with fines. It's just a tough situation for them, an easy situation for the NHL to fix, but they're not going to go the easy route. They're going to make it as difficult on the players as possible.
Yeah.
But I'd say more likely than not, the games won't happen, and they'll get more time to train as a team, and then eventually, maybe like next week they'll start playing.
All right. Well, DGriff, thank you for your time enlightening us on NHL topics. Make sure to go check out Dylan. Make sure to go check out Elite Prospects Rinkside on Twitter. I will have both of those linked down below. Make sure to go follow Dylan. Dylan, have you back up to 2K yet, man? I know your account got suspended at 2K. Are we back up there? Where are we at?
We're at like 1.1 right now.
All right, well, let's get this man to 2,000 real quick. Everybody go over there, follow him. Also, make sure to go check out Elite Prospects Rinkside. Dylan, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's always a good time talking hockey with you, talking with the GOAT of hockey, Dylan Griffing. Again, shout out Wisconsin Rush, shout out G5, shout out to all of our team members, shout out Dylan Griffing, and shout out Elite Prospects Rinkside. Make sure you guys go check them out and Dylan out. But y'all have a good night. We'll talk to you later. And remember, every moment matters.